Yo, let's talk about knives today. We're not cooking, we're just talking about knives. So what I want to do is talk about the two main camps of knives, your Japanese knives and your German or Western knives. And I want to talk about which knives are essential to have in your house as a home cook. Okay, so let's start with Japanese knives. Knives are primarily made of steel. Steel is an alloy that's a combination of iron and carbon. The amount of carbon corresponds to the amount of hardness that you'll get on your knife. Japanese knives, on average, have a higher content of carbon, so they're harder, but they're also thinner. And because they're thinner, they are more prone to breaking, brittling, losing their edge very, very easily. Okay? So they will require more upkeep, more maintenance. But they tend to be a little bit sharper. Okay? Now, when you're sharpening knives, I'm going to do a whole video on that. You will sharpen a Japanese knife at the 12 to 15 degree angle instead of the normal 20 degrees on a German knife because they're thinner. Okay? So just kind of think about why that is. Thinner blade will require a little bit less of an angle so that you're not shaving too much off. Okay, so that's Japanese knives. Japanese knives predominantly really are made for precision cuts and precision cooking. Okay? So think of your sushi when when Japanese chefs make sushi, they really require really fine cuts, really precise, and really require a very, very sharp knife and a very thin blade to kind of go through it pretty easily. Okay, so that's your Japanese knives. Japanese knives, you can find them in the US. They are available. They tend to be more expensive, and they're not as prevalent as German or Western style knives. Okay, German knives. Or German blades, German steel, Western knives, etc. It's all in the same camp. Western or German knives tend to be less content carbon in their steel, which makes them softer, but they manufacture them in basically one piece of steel and make them thicker. And because they're thicker, their edge will hold longer, and they won't be as prone to brittling or breaking, which requires less maintenance. Okay? So German knives are less maintenance and will hold their shape for much, much longer. They are less fragile, if you may, than Japanese knives. And they are multi-purpose knives, or really used for very rigorous, slicing, chopping, breaking through bones, all of that. They are more heavy duty than Japanese knives. Japanese knives you need to take care of them a little bit, and they are not meant for heavy duty work, right? German knives are meant for heavy duty work. Okay. Now, if you're going to go out and buy knives, please try and get, now there's a wide range of price points that you can get into. It's all over the place, right? The standard that I typically use when I buy knives, and I have had the knife set for probably, 5-6 years. The standard that I would look for is German steel, and I would prefer to have it made either in Germany or in Europe, okay, or America. It's fine. I would please stay away, if your wallet can afford it, please stay away from Chinese-made knives. The quality is not the same, even if they're carrying the same brand like Henkel's or Wusthof or two big German brands. Sometimes their knives, sort of the cheaper sets, they'll send them off to China to be made. And unfortunately, I haven't had them. My first set was made in Spain, Henkel's. My second set was Henkel's German, made in Germany. But my parents have the Chinese-made ones. They won't hold their shape for very long. They will require a lot more maintenance, and they're just not as well balanced. They are not as easy, if you may, to use. Okay? So, if you can, and if your wallet can afford it, stay away from Chinese-made knives, and please stay away from brands you've never heard of. Okay? So go with Henkel's, Wusthof. There's some other ones. Mercer is a good one. The professional kitchens use Mercer. I'm not sort of advocating one. I'm just saying buy good name brands. Quality goes a long way. And buy the ones that are made in America or in Europe. Okay? They will last you a long time. And they won't require as frequent sharpening than you would with other knives, with cheaper sort of knives. But buy the best you can afford with your budget. Okay. The knives that you absolutely need and are essential in your kitchen. One is a chef's knife. So this is sort of your bigger knife. It's pretty wide and it's pretty long, and it will either be sort of 8, 10, or 12 inches. This one's an 8-inch knife. I have another one that's 10. I actually prefer the 10 more than the 8, but this is the one that we have here that I have in the kitchen. So this is an 8-inch blade. It's thick. It's designed for you to really, it's designed to be somewhat well balanced, right? And this one isn't quite well balanced. What the perfectly balanced knife is, if you put your finger right here where the blade meets the handle, it's supposed to just balance itself perfectly, right? But this one, because the steel is pretty heavy, it's just going to tip over. But anyway, okay, so chef's knives, if you only have one knife in your kitchen and can only afford one really, really good knife, make it your chef's knife. This is your power horse. This is the one that you're going to use 80-90% of the time. It can go through anything, right? I break bones with this thing. I can carve chickens with it, although I have another carving, sort of boning knife for that. That's a little bit more delicate, that I can sort of get around the edges better. But I can go through cartilage pretty easily with this. I can cut anything with this. And I know how to use every bit of the blade to where I can take any piece of vegetable, any piece of meat, anything, and use this knife the way it's meant to be used. Okay, so this is your power horse. If you can buy one knife, again, and spend decent money on it and really maintain it, it'll be your chef's knife. This is your power horse. This is the one that I always pick up 90% of the time. Okay? And most of the time with this knife, you're going to be using this part of the blade here. And it's made to be rocked, right? So it's made to where you hold it, you put your vegetable or your piece of meat, and you sort of slice through it. And that's why the blade is curved too. If you see that, the blade's curved, right? And it's made for you to sort of, chiffonade or slice through things. So this is your absolute workhorse. Okay, that's one. Another really important knife is your boning knife. So this one has this weird curved shape, and it's designed to where you can very easily get around bones and take meat off of bones. It applies to meat and to fish. It is essential if you're doing a lot of deboning work. Okay, so that's another one that's pretty good and that's pretty important. And then you can see it's pretty thin, so that you can kind of get through and get around areas pretty easily. Okay, the other one that's absolutely, well, I don't know if it's absolutely essential, but the culinary school I went to had one of these in their kits, and it's a carving knife. So it's not meant to sort of debone or carve a turkey necessarily, although maybe you could use it. I don't use this one as often. I honestly only use it to, if I make a piece of steak, just kind of cut through the piece of, the steak and kind of before serving it. But honestly, I can do just as easily with, again, your chef's knife. So it's okay to have, it's nice to have, but not absolutely essential. A paring knife. A paring knife, I think, is also probably these three, right? Chef's, deboning or boning, and your paring knife are the ones that I use the absolute most. This one is really great if you really want to get into small vegetables and kind of sort of get in there. Maybe you're taking out sort of what's in a bell pepper. This one's really small, and it's nice and easy to sort of get in there and kind of work with your vegetables. So this is another one. So the three that I would absolutely recommend are chef, boning, if you're prone to boning a lot, and your paring knife. If you aren't prone to boning or deboning, then your chefs and your paring knife are your two absolute essentials. Okay? Cool. there are other knives, like this is a bread knife, so it's a serrated knife. It's really great for cutting through hard breads or even soft bread. So I like this one too. It's not absolutely essential, but I like having it in the kitchen because it just makes cutting through bread, you know, much, much easier. So this is another good one. And then you've got your steak knives. Your steak knives are ones that you put on the table that, you know, if you're eating any kind of meat or steak, whatever, you put on the table next to your, you know, on the other side of the plate from the fork, and you can serve it. It's pretty sharp, and it just makes cutting through meats a lot easier than a regular knife that you get from your sort of cutlery set. Okay? So those are the knives. Now, there's some other, if you're buying a set, they will come with a whole bunch of knives that I'm not even sure what they're for. To this day, I don't know what this thing is. And I've never used it, never touched it. I have no idea. I'm sure there's a purpose, and I'm sure somebody will comment and tell me, oh, this is what this is for. Okay, great. I've never found a use for it. So, to me, useless. This, another smaller serrated knife, useless, because I have my big one, and I'm not sure really when I'm going to use this one. Don't use it. The Santoku knife. So the Santoku knife's an interesting one. I do use it sometimes if, say, maybe my chef's knife is not clean, or my wife and I are both cooking and we're chopping and prepping, and she's using the chef's knife. I'll pick this one. Actually, I think my wife likes this one more because it's a shorter blade, it's a little bit lighter, and she prefers this one. But the idea of a Santoku knife is, Santoku actually stands for, it's a Japanese word that stands for, I think, slicing, mincing, and cutting, okay? It's a thinner knife than your, you can't see this on the video, but it's definitely a thinner knife than your chef's. It's supposed to mimic a Japanese style knife, where it's a thinner blade and a much thinner knife generally, and a much thinner blade, right? So it's gonna be relatively sharper, but it's gonna be more brittle, right? So you need to keep this one sharp much more often and take care of it much more diligently than a chef's knife. But if you notice the difference between the two, the chef's knife has a very curved edge, and that curved edge allows you to sort of, you know, rock and slice, right? Just like that. The Santoku doesn't allow you to do that. It's really meant to sort of cut straight down in vertical lines, okay? These sort of grooves here allows the foods not to stick to the knife. And honestly, I think it's primarily made for sushi, where if you're cutting through your fish, raw fish, it just doesn't stick, right? It just kind of slides right off, okay? So that's your knife sets. Those are the differences between Japanese and Western style knives. Ones that I would recommend that are essential in your kitchen is your chef and your paring knife, and I would include the boning knife if you start to, you know, learn how to debone or break down chicken or debone fish, which we're going to do an episode on as well. A steak knife, a carving knife is not essential. I could use my chef's knife for that, but it's nice to have. A bread knife is actually pretty useful for cutting through breads. These two things, absolutely useless. The Santoku knife is nice if it just comes in your set. I wouldn't say no to it, that's fine. But if you're buying singular knives, start with your chef and get a paring, and maybe a boning is your option 3. Obviously, if you want a bread knife, that's fine too. But if you get a set, it's probably going to come with a lot of this stuff, and probably more than you ever will need. Okay, I hope this video was somewhat useful, sort of explains Japanese versus Western knives, and sort of share with you the ones you should absolutely have in your kitchen, and the ones that are probably you're not going to touch. Like I've never touched this guy, right? Or this one either. So buy what your budget can afford. Go as high quality as you possibly can. If you have to get a set, that's fine. There's plenty of sets that are sort of made in Germany, made in Europe. They are really good. Keep your knives sharp. A sharp knife is much safer in the kitchen than a dull knife. And the reason for that is, you might think, Well, that doesn't make any sense. Think about it this way. If your knife is sharp, you're only going to need one cut to go through something. If your knife is dull, you're going to need multiple attempts to get through something, whether it's a hard vegetable or whatnot. And the more pressure you apply to your foods, the more prone you are for your hand to slip and really injure you, right? So we're going to do another knife skills lesson as well, a video. I'll give you some basics there. We're not going to go through a whole class because that could be 2-3 hours, but we're going to go through some basics. Knives must absolutely be sharp. 1, for safety, and 2, they're just much more pleasurable. You're gonna have more fun in the kitchen when the knife is sharp because you're gonna go through stuff relatively quickly and feel like it's easy, right? Believe it or not, I actually like the prepping phase. I like slicing and dicing and cutting and preparing all of my ingredients prep before I start cooking them because I like using the knife. And once you learn how to use the knife correctly, I hope you're gonna love it, right? And just make sure your knife is sharp. That's it. Please like and subscribe to this video. Subscribe to the channel. The more I get subscriptions, the more I understand that you guys are actually enjoying the content, and the more the Google algorithm will push out the content. So it's a win-win for all of us, and I'll keep making more. So I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope this wasn't laborious or repetitive. Probably was repetitive. I do tend to repeat myself a lot, just like I just did now. But I'm trying my best to get better at it, so bear with me. Have an awesome day and happy knifing.